All right. Let's move on to our last topic of the week. So we're going to talk about more strategies as well and streaming strategies. So we're going to talk about some players that are going to be great streaming options for certain categories. So for example, which players might be good for threes, defensive stats, like steals and blocks, percentages. And we're also going to keep in mind, like, while they do bring something on the table, we need to consider what they take away from the table.
Yep, for sure. First off, let me just share my team build in case of all you fantasy owners that have a similar build as my team. So my team build, I'm focusing on scoring, assists, and 3-pointers. And those that I'm pretty confident, but I could definitely use some help with defensive stats. So this guy I want to talk about, he's from the Hornets. It's PJ Washington. He is a pretty decent defensive player. He'll bring you steals and blocks, and he's currently 70% owned on Yahoo Fantasy. So there's still a chance to get him if he's available, but you got to be aware of his low field goal percentage. So for the last 2 weeks, he's been shooting 34%. I mean, he's shot perfect on the line, but because he doesn't get to the line very often, and he's averaging 10 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, a steal, and close to 2 blocks. So the defensive stats are definitely there, but if you have a team that it's already pretty low on field goal percentages and you're pretty good on defensive stats, I would not recommend picking him up. But if there's really nothing to lose and you desperately need those steals and blocks, feel free to take a look at him.
Yeah, I like PG Washington, a player that plays like a pretty good, like I would say consistent, not like a lot, but like a consistent chunk of minutes, good energy while he's out there. And he's actually like his roster spot in the Hornets right now is pretty good with Gordon Hayward coming out because of his injury. So good. He's good at like a jack of all trades. Like you get a bit of everything with PJ Washington, but definitely the field goal percentage can be a big turnoff for a lot of people.
Well, it says PJ Washington is a jack of all trades. My player is a specialist. So this streamer that in our fantasy league, believe it or not, he's been ad dropped 6 times this season. So one of the, I guess you can see how many times under player profile or player history, how many times this player has been picked up and added. So 6 times is quite a lot throughout the whole season, and I think it's due to the fact that this player plays a lot of minutes on his team. He's mostly for screen for threes and points and breakout points. This player will give you 0 or close to not much defensive stats. So this player is from the Indiana Pacers, Justin Holliday. So he's currently rostered in 44% in Yahoo Sports. So he's still could be out there for you to pick up. But I think all managers will think that he's always has that breakout opportunity to score you 20, 30 points, just because if you can get hot from beyond the arc, then he can get you that week of extra points and threes. But other than that, he doesn't give you much other defensive stats or rebounds or even assists. So that's why everybody goes to him in terms of trying to roster him, but he's always somebody that gets dropped due to his inconsistency. So Justin Holliday, if you do need some threes and potential breakout points, he plays lots of minutes for the Indiana Pacers.
It's funny because Justin Holiday's role hasn't really changed. Like he was kind of like this kind of role when he was on the Chicago Bulls before as well, where he just kind of like a 3-and-D guy. And I've noticed that this year his steals have gone down a bit, but previous years he was supposed to be like a steal specialist as well, like 3 and steals. And I think with actually part of it is with the arrival of Karis LeVert, a lot of the shots have gone away from him in terms of the threes. Another player I would actually say is very close to Justin Holliday, but maybe not as high scoring upside, is Danny Green. So very similar position. They start at the kind of like the shooting guard, small forward position, and they just play defense, and then they shoot threes. And the good thing about these two players is that they don't handle the ball much. So their turnover, like they don't hurt you in too many categories. But it's just that you hope that when you stream them, they'll string together like 2 or 3 games where, they really pop off for you.
I think another common denominator for these type of players like Holliday and Danny Green, the Green Ranger, is they're very streaky. Usually that's the case for 3-and-D players. They, like Angus says, don't handle the ball much, so the turnover rate is really low. But they can go on a hot streak shooting threes, so that could be something that benefits teams like Sherman mentioned if you're looking to improve on 3-pointers and points for that week.
For sure. And it's funny because with Danny Green, I actually had him for a while and I still currently have him. And every game, you just hope, could this be a 25-point Danny Green or a 3-point Danny Green?
And sometimes
And
you
also-
hope that, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So I just quick note, sometimes like you hope that the team's success will help them do better. Like for example, when Indiana was top of the league, top of the Eastern Conference standings, Justin Holiday was playing so good. And then same with Danny Green when Philadelphia was going on tears, and once in a while when Joel Embiid or Ben Simmons was out, they would get a lot of good shots up.
And I think also another factor to consider when streaming these players is how are their teammates doing. If Sabonis and Brogdon is having good weeks, teams might tend to defer more to double teaming them and focusing more on them, and that would lead more opportunities and open looks for Holiday. And same for Danny Green. If Embiid's playing well, if Ben Simmons is playing well, they'll give him more attention and open up more space for them to have their shot.
Agreed. I got a player that is kind of like a jack of all trades. He had like this really weird backdoor opportunity to play more minutes for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Isaiah Hartenstein. So, he's just a very simple, kind of mobile big. He plays a backup center role. He's good streaming option for blocks, rebounds, field goal percentage. So very standard type of center. And then he's got some bonus to him too. Like once in a while, he'll shoot some threes, which is if a big can rebound and block and shoot threes, that's really valuable. And once in a while, when he does play big minutes, he'll get some points as well. But it is kind of interesting to note, especially this week, because Jarrett Allen just came back. Kevin Love is all of a sudden playing back-to-backs as well. So that'll obviously cut into Isaiah Hartenstein's minutes. But when those players aren't playing, and same with Larry Nance as well, when those players aren't playing, then Hartenstein does quite a lot with the minutes he's given.
So he's kind of like a third to fourth string depth player on the Cavs. So I guess he was taking advantage of his opportunity when, I guess, like you said, Jarrett Allen was out and Kevin Love wasn't playing back-to-back and Larry Nance was injured as well. So very deep find there, I guess.
That's what I try to do. Same with back then, TJ McConnell, all the guys. I look for the guys that trying to break out. They're the time lords, that do a lot with the minimum minutes they're given.
Don't forget Kevin Porter Jr.
Oh, Kevin Porter Jr. Actually, I think he's a different topic, but I would say he's not like a transcendental, like league-winning kind of player, as much as I thought initially. I admit.
No, he's still doing well, I guess.
Yeah, but he would be a good example of a player who can bring like good assists, good points, but he destroys your field goal percentage. Sorry, field goal percentage is okay, but turnover rate.
Yeah, with young players, that's always the case.
Yeah.
And given the big role he has with the Rockets now, you kind of expect the usage to go up, and with that, mistakes tend to happen, especially with young players.
I guess for teams that are still rebuilding or not, don't really have much, postseason aspirations. They're okay with them making mistakes, shooting 20, 15, 20 shots a game and, hitting only 7 or 8 of them. It's different where you're playing with teams that have playoff aspirations that can't live with these turnovers and checking up bricks, like Chicago, like we mentioned last week with Kobe White and Lauri Markkanen. So Kevin Porter is kind of the opposite, where Houston doesn't have any aspirations, and they let him do whatever he wants, kind of freewheeling.
And with the NBA playoffs coming, not soon, but like within a month, this will be a very interesting topic to see how our fantasy players, throughout going into the playoffs, will be affected by, how NBA teams actually chase their playoff aspirations. So make sure to tune in next week and the following weeks to see more fantasy information. And that's that. All right. Thank you guys for listening again. This is our 14th episode. It's been awesome. And I hope that we can still put out more content and reach out to more of you guys. Thank you guys for listening. I'll see you guys next week.